for into the live. I don't remember even that it did though.
All right, it looks like we're
Right.
live.
Good.
Excellent. I'm going to just wait a few minutes to see our attendees show up. Yeah, we have some attendees. Good. Welcome, people.
Okay.
Lisa and I are just sitting here kind of waiting. We're going to give people a little more time. We'll be starting here in the next couple minutes, and we're going to go about an hour today.
Hey, everybody.
So that's Lisa.
Hi. Getting used to this way of communicating, huh?
Yeah. The Zoom thing has been crazy lately. Everybody's at home, and Zoom I hear is overwhelmed with security issues. So we're not using Zoom today. We're using a platform called Webinar Jam, which is a little more secure. But um, I had intended to start webinars probably 6 months ago, and you get busy, and it didn't happen. And now I thought, oh my gosh, how perfect! Everybody's at home anyway. We might as well. So it's worked out well.
Great. And I'm sure a lot of you who are attending today are working in the healthcare field. So um, thank you for the work that you're doing. If you're front lines and even if you're behind the scenes, it's all contributing to the well-being and to the health of the country. So really appreciate the work that you're doing. And even if you're not, you have an eye towards it, planning on going to PA school, which is excellent. It's an amazing career, and you've made a good choice.
Yeah, I forget sometimes that a lot of our clients, even before they come work with us, are already in healthcare in one form or another, and they're doing awesome work, and it's work that needs to be done.
Exactly. Yeah.
We're talking about the next iteration of your career in medicine, but it's all important.
Right.
All right, let's wait one more minute. We got
Yeah.
a pretty good chunk of people now, but want to maximize the group. So what I'm going to do is open up talking a little bit about who we are and as a company and as people. Our biographies, our bios are on the website. You might have already seen them if you signed up through the website, which is the only place you can. So we won't go into that in detail, what we've done. I'm an urgent care PA. I went to UC Davis. I'll let Lisa talk about herself, but rather than going into our bios in any length, we're just going to get right into the information because there's plenty of it. But
And since you're all stuck at home, we thought it was both fitting and a little ironic that we have a theme of taking you on a trip. So we're going to help you map your path to PA school since you can't go anywhere else.
yeah,
We figured why not, right?
you're gonna virtually go to PA school today.
Yeah, exactly.
Good. So I'm gonna just jump over to our slides and advance one. So welcome everybody. Today is the first in our webinar series. We're going to be doing webinars periodically about different issues related to starting your career as a PA. We have a bunch of them in the hopper. 2 of them officially on the schedule right now. I'll get to here in a minute, but today is sort of our opening. We're going to be talking about an overview of the application process for PA school. So just a quick note, we have chat disabled, and that's because we have so many people here. I think we're a pretty friendly outfit, and I love hearing from students. I love talking with students and answering questions. And although we do have services that we charge for, we also give a lot of counsel away and answer questions and that sort of stuff. But today we have a lot to cover. We have about an hour, so rather than getting bogged down in chat, we're just going to disable that. The next time we meet for a webinar, we will have that enabled and we can chat and answer questions. We'll have a Q&A. So just an overview of what Inside PA Training is. InsidePATraining.com or mypatraining.com. I founded it with a classmate of mine from UC Davis School of Medicine's PA program in 2011. I have embarrassing founding stories. I think the embarrassing story I meant to share was the original name. So we founded it as it really wasn't a company. It was a a blog. We wanted to share what we were doing in PA school because we were so excited about it with our family and friends, and that was a way to do it. And it was originally called Palpating the Field, which is really obscure. Palpating in medicine is touching. Um, it's part of the assessment when you evaluate a patient. You palpate their spleen, for example, and the field was supposed to be a play on, the medicine field versus the surgical field. Um, but I think very quickly I realized nobody knew what that was. So inside PA training has been more clear. Today, Gabe, who started it, is still my good buddy, but he has been plenty busy with medicine and is not part of the company, but we're on great terms. The company today is myself. I am the West Coast person in California, and Lisa Walker, who's our East Coast person. She's going to be doing most of the talking today. Um, but Lisa's amazing. Came to me about, what's it been, a year now?
I think so. Yeah.
It's been a year, and said, "Hey, do
Yep.
you need an East Coast coach?" And I did, and her credentials were impeccable. And that was step one. Step two was talking to her about her beliefs about this field and how you get into it. And we really, I think, saw eye to eye. So it was kind of a match made in heaven. And I think that's been terrific. As a company, we have some principles. I really feel like medicine needs you more than ever. And this is a field that was growing hugely even before healthcare reform hit during the Obama administration. Now, healthcare is, I think it's the number 2 or 3 industry in the in the country. Um, because a lot of people have healthcare who never did. So we need medical practitioners more than ever. And then with COVID, I mean, obviously, there's an even bigger demand right now. It's really nice to have the job security during a healthcare thing like this. Um, and I sometimes feel guilty that I'm in a job that I really enjoy, and some of my friends are, not working. Um, but they all have important roles. I'm sure we'll come back online soon. Um, I kind of founded it with the idea that insider information can help you. And there wasn't a lot when I started. I used to joke that I broke the internet trying to figure out how to get into PA school because there just wasn't a lot of information about it. There's a lot of it now, but a lot of it I find is not terribly reliable. So our emphasis these days is on being the reliable source for how you get into PA school and how you start a PA career. I really believe you should become a student of the process. There's a lot to learn, and that's part of why we're here today. And our emphasis is on helping you put your best foot forward. We don't want to create you to be somebody you're not. I really believe that we can help you apply and be who you are and really show them in a way that will be appealing to them. And so that's what that part at the bottom is about. You're amazing. I have a lot of students who talk to me and they say, well, I wrote my essay, but I haven't really done anything that exciting compared to all my friends who are applying to this field. My job and Lisa's job is to help you see what about you is amazing and attractive to PA schools. Because I promise you, you have that. You just need to think about what is unique. And sometimes a coach can be really helpful in that area. All right, so pushing on. Really quickly, our services, and then we're going to get to the talk. We offer all kinds of services. We have ebooks, we have coaching. Really today our hope is to sort of spread the word about our coaching services. Those include teleconsults, which are 1-hour phone calls where you can talk with one of us live about whatever you have questions about: planning, what's my plan of attack, how do I overcome this problem, I have low grades in this area, etc. We do review PA school applications. It's a one and done thing where we go through your application in detail and provide you with detailed feedback, including edit suggestions, and our overall sort of gestalt or opinion about how your application comes across, because a lot of people don't really know how their application looks to an admissions committee member. We help with essays. There are varying levels from I just need a little tiny, review of what I have, to I need help with structure, all the way up to I need help um, deciding what to write about. And our essay coaching involves overall structural help and theme, but also edit suggestions. I wouldn't use this word, I'd use this word, that kind of thing. And we'll talk about that briefly later. We do help with supplementals. Supplementals, if you aren't aware, are essays that specific schools will send you to complete as a part of their specific application process after your, excuse me, after your application shoots out to everybody, to all the schools. And then my favorite thing that we do is help you prepare for interviews. That's a process kind of like this. We do it over Skype or FaceTime or any of those platforms, and it's a lot of fun. So hopefully, if any of those services be useful, you'll consider us. So I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. As soon as I do a quick poll here, I'm going to put a poll out to everybody. It's a simple question. We're just kind of curious about how many of you are first-time applicants or not. So if you could do that, we would appreciate it. While they're filling it out, you want to go ahead, Lisa? We're getting some response.
I will. Yeah. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for taking time on this Sunday to join us for this talk. I'm a PA. I'm a family medicine PA. Been a PA for a long time. And I've been a PA educator for over 20 years. And in those 20 years, I've reviewed thousands of applications and I've interviewed hundreds of people hoping to become a PA. So it's one of the things I really enjoy about my work, and helping people find the path and achieve their goal and their dream of becoming a PA is one of the things I really love about my work. So that's one of the reasons that I'm here talking with you today. So the CASPA application cycle opens every year in April. This year it's April 30th, which is coming right up. We got about 11 days, no, exactly 11 days to it opening. And today we want to talk about what you can be doing in the next 11 plus days to be getting ready to fill out your application and submit it. We're going to talk about what you need to complete your application, the materials that you'll need, and we're going to offer you some tips for what you should and should not do as you're getting ready to fill out your application and in the process of putting a stellar application together.
Let me jump in for just a minute too,
Yeah,
Lisa.
yeah.
One of the benefits of attending today for our live session is that we will send you a do's and don'ts document. I'll be giving that to you, and along with that, you do get a discount for one of our services if you're interested. So if that's of interest to you, the do's and don'ts document, it's about 3 pages, pretty detailed. Do hang out until we send that out to you guys.
And our next webinar is going to be on April 29th, the day before CASPA opens. And today is really going to be an overview of what you'll find in CASPA and some of the important pointers about the different categories in CASPA. But on the 29th, we're going to really dig into a number of those categories and give you some very specific tips on some of the best ways to complete that information to really make your application stand out. So we'll talk more about that later on. So timing isn't everything, but being ready is. Early is good, but good is better. So what do I mean by that? Getting your application in early is good, but submitting a good application is even more important. I'd rather have you submit a fabulous application the day before your top school's deadline than to have you rush it in and try to be one of the first ones in the door. So in our world, what Paul and I really recommend for early is to shoot for around June 15th. Most programs' deadlines fall around the July to October is really kind of the window that most schools' application deadlines fall. So there's really no need to rush to get this done. But you don't want to necessarily wait until the last minute. So that's why this information we're going to share with you today is really important, because it's going to help you start getting organized so that you can get your application in a timely fashion. The schools don't get the information right away. That we don't start receiving applications the day the system opens. It's usually somewhere around the beginning of June that they start to become available to us.
I read today the data from the applicants will not be distributed until at the earliest May 4th.
Okay, so early May. Okay, so but still, I'll having been in a number of different programs, I'll tell you we don't start looking at them on May 4th or 5th or 6th. Generally, programs start to look at applications around June, almost regardless of where their deadline is. I would say we start looking at the applications and reviewing them in June. So if you need help, get it. Make sure that you have people who can look over your application, give you advice, proofread things for you, because you're going to be cross-eyed by the time you're done trying to fill this thing out. So make sure you have other people take a look at it for you. All right, so getting ready for your trip. We're going to take you on a little trip, but first we got to pack our suitcase, right? So the first thing you want to do is you want to think about where do you want to apply. Now, when I do information sessions for prospective PA students, I like to say that you're going to get in somewhere, and you will. You need to believe that in your heart of hearts. It may take a couple tries, it may take a couple cycles of applying, but we're going to make it happen, right? So we're going to get you're going to get into a program, you're going to get through the program, you're going to graduate, you're going to pass your boards, you're going to have a fabulous career as a PA. And that's any program, any one of the programs that you apply to, that you get into, they're going to get you where you need to be. So what do you need to think about when you're thinking about the programs you're going to apply to? I think what you want to find is a good fit for you. If you're in a position where you really can't pull up your roots and move, and you've got to apply to schools that are nearby, then that's what you need to do. That's where you need to place your emphasis. And it's about crafting your application so that you appeal to those programs. If you don't have the flexibility to apply to 10, 15 different programs all across the country, then you really need to work hard to hone that application on and focus on those programs. If you can relocate and you've grown up in a small town and you want to have a big city experience, you're going to apply Boston, Philly, California, so that's where you're going to focus your efforts. You want to find a place that's going to be a good fit for you. If you're the kind of person who does better in an interactive learning environment, then look for the programs that do interactive teaching, like problem-based learning or team-based learning. So these are all the kinds of things that you want to look for to make sure that you're finding a program that's a good fit for you. What's going to be a good experience for you for those 2 or 2.5 years that you're in this intense graduate academic program. You don't want to be miserable for those 2 years. You want to have a good experience. So find a program that's a good fit for you. And I do want to take a minute just to talk about, I'm going to be talking about some of the challenges, like if you have a low GPA, which can be daunting and can make people feel like, oh, I'm never going to get in. But that's not necessarily the case. And a little bit further in the talk, I'll mention some ideas around that. But one of the things I want to mention here is, as you're assessing the programs that you want to go to, I know that a lot of applicants look at the board pass rate. No doubt that's important, absolutely. But I am going to say these programs with board pass rates that you're like, man, it's not 100%. So I'm not sure I want to go there. Keep in mind that some of these programs are programs that have a mission to accept students who come from economically or educationally disadvantaged backgrounds. And if that's the case, they may take a little bigger hit on their board pass rates because they're taking students who have certain risk factors. That being said, I always say I don't admit a student without having an absolute goal of them passing the boards on the first time. So if we accept a student, the onus is on us and them to make sure that we give them the skills and the tools they need to pass the boards. But it's just a little caveat about the board scores. I think sometimes I feel like a little too much emphasis is placed on that as a driver for why you would pick a certain school or wouldn't pick a certain school. So we want you to do your homework. The first thing you need to find out, once you have your list of schools, so now I know I definitely want to apply to these 6 schools. Do they all participate in CASPA? Maybe. There are a few schools out there still that don't participate in CASPA, which means they have a completely separate application process that you're going to have to find out about, get used to, figure out what they need, how does it work. And the other thing is, know each of these schools' deadlines. They're not going to be the same. So, one school may be June 15th, another one is July 30th, and another one is October 1st. So you don't want to be tooling along. You only looked at one school's application deadline and it was July 30th, and you're like, oh, good, I'm all set to the end of July. And then you go to apply to your top school and find out it was a month ago was their deadline. So you don't want that to happen. So look at those deadlines up front. Look at their prerequisites. Make sure you have them. There is not any standardization across PA schools for prerequisites. There are a number of prerequisites that are pretty standard that most schools have. A&P 1 and 2, a couple chemistries, a biology, usually a psychology, but some schools require biochem, others don't. Some schools require immunology, genetics, others don't. So you need to know what your top schools require for prerequisites and what the minimum grade is. That varies across schools. Some are a C minus, some are a C, some are a B minus. So you don't want to just look at one of those schools and see that their minimum grade is a C and think you're all set. If you've got below a B minus in your other top schools, that's their minimum grade. So make sure you check that out and you know what those standards are for each of the programs you're applying to.
Lisa, can I break in for just a second?
Yeah.
We didn't. I had intended to include a link to the PAEA program directory. We have a directory on Inside PA Training of PA programs, but honestly, I don't think that's the best resource because the PAEA publishes a directory that's updated really, really frequently, and it has all of the requirements. And you can even search by school. You can say, show me all the schools that accept that have no minimum GPA, or all the schools that accept under 500 hours of healthcare experience. So that directory you can find if you just Google PAEA program directory. It'll come up. It's free. It's, I think, by far the best way to find the schools that are going to work for you.
I'd agree. And just if you're curious, PAEA stands for Physician Assistant Education Association. It's the national professional organization representing PA programs in the country. So they're a good resource for applicants. They have a lot of good information available for you. And then the other thing that you want to find out is you want to make sure that you're requesting your transcripts early. Because it can be one of the things that can hold up your application is the transcripts not getting to CASPA in time. So make sure you know who to contact, how to contact them, what the process is. Some schools have forms you need to fill out to request transcripts. So you want to make sure that you know what the process is for the schools that you're going to be requesting transcripts. And the other thing is, do your schools allow outstanding prerequisites? What that means is, can you apply when you still haven't taken that biochem course that they require? So you look online and you see that your top school requires biochem. You never took biochem, but you get to apply in the next month and a half. You got to submit your application. Can I apply to that program while I'm taking biochem or before I've registered to take that course? Some programs will allow you to apply with an outstanding prerequisite, with the caveat that you have to complete it and get a C or a B minus before you matriculate into the program. But that's something you need to look and find out if they allow that. Okay, so continuing on with the homework. Some more homework you need to do. You need to find out what the healthcare requirements are, healthcare experience requirements are for the programs that you're applying to, because they're all over the map. There are some programs that require none. Some programs I've seen that require 250 hours. And there are some programs that require 6,000 hours, which is all over a year of full-time experience. I would say probably the average is around 2,000 is the most common that I've seen. I don't know if it's the average, but it's the most common that I've seen, which is a little over 7-8 months of full-time work. And the other thing you want to find out is what type of healthcare experience you require. Some programs will allow for credit experience if you went on a medical trip that was part of a course that you took in undergrad. If you volunteered at a clinic, they'll allow you to count that. Some places won't. It has to be paid experience. Some places will allow scribing. You know, if you're just following somebody around with a computer typing in the notes, some programs will count that as healthcare experience. Others say, nope, it has to be direct patient care, meaning you've got to be talking to and touching patients. So it's important that you look and find out what type of experience they require. Now, there's another thing called additional qualifications or preferred applicant characteristics. The accreditation standards for PA programs require that all schools publish any special criteria that they use in determining who they're going to admit and who they're not. So, or what kind of preferences they give to applicants. You want to look at these. Find these on the admissions web pages of your preferred schools and pay attention. There are going to be things on there like leadership, service, compassion. A grade point average of 3.5 and up is a big hint that, wow, they have a pretty high standard for the grade point average for the GPA.
And those are going to differ from school to school pretty greatly too.
Yep, absolutely. So these and again, you want to really try to tailor your application to speak to those characteristics for your top schools. The other thing you can do that's super helpful is if the school is local to you and they have in-person, not right now, but at some point, in-person information sessions, or they're doing webinars, definitely take the time to go or to attend. And I think, Paul, you wanted to share a little story about experience.
So I attended UC Davis's program in 2010. And as a prelude to that, I attended one of their webinars, and they literally walked through what they're looking for. They gave a list. We want people who have done this and done that. One of the things that I didn't have at that point was I hadn't spent any time in a primary care setting, which nowadays is a little unheard of, but it happens. And they said that's something we really want. So I went out and I got a volunteer gig at the primary care office where my doctor worked. And it was just a few hours a week, 4 hours a week, but it fulfilled what they were looking for. And they told me afterward, they said, you had everything we were looking for. It was kind of a no-brainer. So often they will give you some hints about what they really value, and you can go and accumulate that so that when you apply, you're really going to stand out to them. So attend the webinar.
Absolutely. I was, Paul and I were chatting yesterday, and I was saying how when I have information sessions at the programs that I've worked at, I've had applicants return year after year, applicants who don't get an interview the first time. They don't get in the second time. They come to a third information session. And by that time, I know them by name. They know me by name. And when their application shows up, it's like, wow, this person really wants this. It's that persistence, and that really counts because, I have a lot of people say to me, does it look bad that I'm applying for the third time? No, it looks like, wow, this is something you really want and you're not giving up. And that persistence and that grit and that resilience is critical to being a good PA. I mean, if you can imagine, working in today's healthcare environment as a PA, and the resilience that you need to perform well every day and to have people's lives in your hands. So definitely that counts.
So Lisa, we're at about halfway, so we're going to need to be a little
speed it up. Okay.
I don't want to rush you, but an hour's an hour.
It is that. So transcripts and GRE scores, the only point here is that these are two things that are almost completely out of your hands in terms of them getting submitted on time to CASPA. So don't wait to request them. Request the GRE scores, request your transcripts early, and then check and make sure that they've been received by CASPA. The other thing that can hold up your application is your letters of recommendation. So select the people you want to write your letters early, ask if they're willing to write a letter, and then check in regularly. Make sure they understand the process, how it works. They're going to get a link, and they're going to be linked to a form that they have to complete on CASPA, and they're going to be given the option to upload a letter of recommendation, which they need to do. So they're going to be asked at the beginning of that form that they have to fill out how long they've known you and in what capacity. Here's a caveat. Do not ask the PA that you shadowed for 1 week to write you a letter of recommendation. It does not look good. You need folks who know you professionally and who know you well. This is
in a professional capacity. Like we do get people asking, my neighbor is a surgeon, is that okay? And I tell them, no, you can't use somebody who knows you in another context.
Right. Not the family friend, not the neighbor whose kids you babysat during high school. It needs to be professional references. Professors are fine, undergrad professors. If you took graduate courses, professors are fine. People you volunteer with, people that you went on a medical mission with, and the folks that you work with. I do like to see letters of recommendation from more than one place, meaning don't get all 3 people from your full-time job, because that really still is only giving me a one-dimensional view of who you are. The more variety in the recommenders, the better, I think, because it really gives you a well-rounded view of the applicant. So, stay on your letter writers, and if something happens and somebody can't get one done for you, have somebody in the wings who can write it so they can jump in and do that for you. So these letters are really important. At the beginning of the CASPA application, we're kind of getting into the nitty-gritty of the application now. There's a lot of personal information. You can't really get this wrong. And I am going to say that some of the things I'm sharing with you are my own opinion. And as an individual and a human being, my opinions have bias, and my preferences are my preferences. I'm not speaking for all PA application reviewers, but I think I'll share that with you and let you take it with a grain of salt. And the first thing I want to mention is the race ethnicity category. Please do not check no response. Respond to that. If you think that you're trying to not end up being recognized as somebody who's not a minority.
In other words, for me, I'm a white boy,
white male.
I shouldn't check decline to state or whatever is the
exactly. It doesn't feel right to the reviewer. Just, you are what you are, say what you are, and then show us how amazing you are in all the other places in the application where you have the opportunity to show us how amazing you are. Schools cannot select applicants based on race. There are laws against that. So there are schools that use what are called holistic approach to admissions, and we'll talk a little about that. But that's just my own bias, that you should not leave that blank or check no response. And some of you may be wondering, why is all this information being asked about parents or guardians? Again, for the reviewer, it really gives us an idea of where you came from. It can give us an idea of challenges that you overcame in your lifetime. If you grew up in a single parent household, if you grew up in a household where neither of your parents went to college, that kind of information is really helpful to the reviewer. Languages are very important. If you have a program that you're applying to where they have clinics in a neighborhood where it's predominantly Spanish speaking and you're fluent in Spanish, that's going to be a huge plus. So these are things that you want to definitely fill out. Military status and military service. Some programs give preference to military veterans, so make sure you complete those.
Just to jump in, so these are all demographic factors. You don't have any control of them, but sharing them can make a difference in how your application comes across. And excuse me, some schools will actually give your application a score based on challenges you've overcome, for example. So coming from a poor inner city socioeconomic area could actually benefit you. So share that, but it has to rise to your awareness. Oh yeah, I did have this factor that could be perceived as, a challenge.
Exactly. Again, that's kind of going to grit and resilience that I was talking about earlier. They're going to ask you where were you raised, and how many people in that town that you were raised in. So you're going to need to, if you don't know, go look it up now so you have that information when you go to fill out the application. How many people in your town? What type of an area is it? And in this geographic information, they're going to ask you for a description, and take a minute to describe the town you grew up in. And it's an opportunity for you to talk a little bit about how that helped shape you, who you are. So be descriptive. One of the things that Paul and I are going to harp on over and over again is don't leave things blank. Blank spaces in the application make it look like you didn't try hard, or you didn't care, or you didn't read the directions. And that's not a good omen. So we want people who are thorough, attention to detail, fill out everything. The childhood indicators, these are other things that you may need to actually go look up. Do you know if the town that you grew up in is a medically underserved area? If not, find out. Don't check I don't know. That's an option. But in our world, it's not an option. So just ignore the I don't know.
Sorry to interrupt. There actually is a paragraph, a blank that they give you that you can fill in where you have the option to, it's an option, by the way, to describe your childhood residency. And I wouldn't leave this blank. I mean, tell them what kind of family did you grow up in, how many siblings you had, you know, if your parents were alcoholic, you know, it's not pleasant, but that's an important thing for them to know. You could also talk about how you came from a loving family, but all of these things help you to come alive to them so that you're not just another digital screen they're reading. You're a person and they can feel it.
Exactly. And this paid employment as a child may sound weird, but what they're asking is, did you go to work as a child under the age of 18? Were you working? And was that income you were earning needed to contribute to the family income? Again, looking at overcoming hardships. And then there's a whole section here, these socioeconomic indicators. HRSA indicators, I won't get into what HRSA is, it's a federal designation, but these are all federal indicators of socioeconomic and educational disadvantage. So these are schools that are looking for people with grit, with resilience, who've overcome hardships, people who are likely to go back to where they came from, to practice, to give back to their community. So please, if you don't know the answers to these questions, find them out. There's a whole bunch of stuff here about your high school. And I know some of you graduated high school 10, 15 years ago, but go back and find out. Does your high school have a low percentage of seniors who graduate, or a high dropout rate? Do you live in a designated health professional shortage area? That's a federal designation. You can look it up. Are you the first generation in your family to go to college? Is English a second language for you? Answer these questions. They're really important. And if you don't know, look it up. CASPA has some specific questions. They want to know, and the reviewers want to know, if you've been in a PA program in the past, or other medical or health professions programs. This is not an unsurmountable barrier. If you went to PA school and something happened and you weren't able to complete the program, and now you want to try again, that's okay. And I'm going to put this all into one bubble, because I want to lump that in with the infractions. If you were on academic probation, if you had a misdemeanor charge for having some marijuana in your pocket when you were pulled over by the cops when you were 16 years old, right? If you had your driver's license suspended for some reason, you need to fill these out. If you were enrolled in a PA program and weren't able to complete it, you need to be honest about that. Then what you need to be able to do is you need to be able to talk about why and what did you learn from it? How are you making sure that that's not ever going to happen again? I've had applicants who have admitted to things like underage drinking, being caught, and arrested for underage drinking. They put that in the section, and they've gotten into the programs that I've worked in. So it's not insurmountable. It's about how.
I'm willing to bet they didn't get in minimizing it or making excuses for their behavior.
Exactly. It's owning the mistake, talking about what you learned from it and why it'll never happen again, right? So owning up is really, really important in these categories. Don't skip them, don't minimize, don't place blame on other people. Okay, experiences. We have about 21 minutes left. All right. So if you Google Experience FAQ, frequently asked questions, CASPA Experience FAQ, it's going to tell you there what these different types of experiences mean and what should go into what category. So the employment category is general medical. Patient care is where you're
You cut
actually
out there,
working
Lisa.
directly
Can
with
you say that
patients.
again for me?
Oh,
Sorry,
yeah.
that last
So
sentence.
employment is, patient care experience is anything where you're actually working directly with patients. Health related is where you're working in a healthcare environment, but not working directly with patients. Then all the rest of this stuff is super important. These are opportunities for the reviewer to get to know you and all the amazing things that you've done. So don't minimize, don't skip, don't leave things out. You definitely want to fill all of these sections in, but don't worry if you never participated in any research, any type of research opportunity. Don't worry about leaving it blank. That's okay. If you haven't shadowed or you don't really have anything that you would categorize as extracurricular activities, don't worry about it. You can leave it blank, but you want to be thorough here. There are, in every one of these sections, there's an opportunity to describe. Take the
And
opportunity.
that's one of the things we're going to cover in the deep dive is how do you go about this? How do you word this so that it will be accurate and have the, you know, the
Right,
maximum impact?
right. Excellent. Next section in CASPA is licenses and certifications. You should list all the in-services that you've done, any kind of trainings that you've been through, achievements and awards. You want to make sure in this section that you don't just say, you know, you were on the dean's list for 3 semesters. You want to say in the description, here's what it took to get on the dean's list, right? This is the criteria. I was chosen at my work for the patient advocate, right? I got the patient advocate award for
Yeah, were you chosen by management or were you chosen by your peers? That's something that they might want to know.
and what's the criteria? What's the description for earning that award? Put it into the description in this category. And Paul, you wanted to talk about professional memberships.
Yeah, a lot of applicants turn in their application without any professional memberships, and that's okay. But one tip I have for you is you can join the American Academy of Physician AAPA, American Academy of Physician Assistants, for, I looked it up, $75 as a preclinical member. And as a member, you get their magazine and you get, you know, news updates from the field. It's a great way to learn about the field. And the beauty of it, a little secret here, PA schools don't have any idea when you joined or what your level of activity has been. So you could literally join it the night before you turn in your application, and it would look the same. I like to see it. I think it shows that you're in touch with the field that you're wanting to join. And even better, if you become active and actively engaged in it, you could talk about that.
Great. Okay, are we there yet? Almost. This is the meat and potatoes of your application, and I'm going to tell you why. An application is a one-dimensional document that I have to use to figure out if out of the 1,000 people that applied to my program, are you one of the 150 people I want to interview? That's a daunting task. Programs don't even do interviews, and they're selecting their students right from the application. So you need to do everything you can to give the reviewer a full picture of who you are and why you want to be a PA and why you'll be a fabulous PA. So this has got to happen in the essay. And this is the biggest caveat that I think you can take away from this whole talk is don't use the precious word count of the essay to reiterate your resume. Your resume is in the application. You've already put all that information in there. where you worked, where you volunteered, how many times you shadowed or different places you shadowed, the grades you got in certain courses or what degree you have. Don't waste the space talking about those things. Talk about what you learned from those experiences. Talk about the experiences in your life that have been impactful, that have led you to this place on your journey. Talk about the reason you want to be a PA, what you anticipate giving back as a PA. These are all the things that you can do in the essay that are going to make the reviewer get to know you and say, this is somebody that I want to give one of these, precious spaces to. Uh, do you want to say any more
Yeah.
about the essay?
I should add, I have a little insider information about this year's application. There is going to be an extra essay question, and we're going to talk about that in the deep dive. The question that is the same from year to year is basically, why do you want to do this? And what I would tell you is, what most people answer is, why do you want to help people through medicine? They talk about how they like to help and cure, and they love science and that kind of stuff, and that's all well and good. But what they are really asking you is, why do you want to be a PA to do that? And I think you need to address that. And we talk about how to do that in our coaching, and I'm going to be talking about our coaching service here in a minute. But that's a tip I can give everybody, is help them understand specifically why PA.
What is it about the PA role that makes you want to do that and also makes you a good candidate to be a PA?
Yeah, and sometimes the way people answer that really shoots themselves in the foot, and sometimes it's very helpful. That question can make a big difference. So
Yeah.
I'm going to advance to the next slide. This
Yeah.
is our sort of plug for our service here. If it's not something that interests you, we'll be moving on to the rest of the info pretty soon here. But basically, one of our services is essay coaching, and it seems to be the most relevant for people who are putting together an application. Writing your essay takes time, and it's something people are usually doing around March, April, May. So I'll just briefly go through these here. Between Lisa and myself, we have read an embarrassingly large amount of these. I actually got this company started by reading other people's essays and giving them free feedback when I had the blog. And then people started to ask me, well, how would you do this? And I realized, oh, I'm pretty good at this. And after doing this for 8 years now, I've read a lot of these, and I have a sense for what works. And I'm sure Lisa's read many more than I have. So I think when you want help for your essay, you want it from someone who knows what works and doesn't. We provide planning if you need it. So if you're like, I don't even know what to write about, we can help you with that. And also involved is detailed feedback. So what you do, you send us your essay, and we open it in Google suggestion mode, which basically, if we don't agree with how you worded something, we highlight it and write what we would suggest, and it puts a line through what you have. So you can take our feedback or leave it. It's up to you. But it's a nice way to see what changes we're suggesting. The feedback we provide is detailed things like line edits. I wouldn't use this word, or I think this point you made is a little muddy. Can we clarify? We talk about theme a little bit. If theme is an area that's lacking, we might talk about it a lot, and the structure of your essay. So it's little picture and big picture. People always want to know, how fast is our service? So it depends on how much help you're wanting. Usually every time you send us a draft, and you can do that one time or multiple times depending on how much help you want, we have it back to you within about 3 days, sometimes sooner. If you sign up for essay coaching today or this weekend, it may be a day or two longer, because I'm anticipating we'll have a bigger chunk of people than usual. 3 levels of help, touch up to soup to nuts. And then I have this testimonial at the bottom. I didn't have a testimonial handy for Lisa, but Lisa gets rave feedback about her essay coaching. It's a fun thing we do, and what we're offering today is, if you are interested in our premium essay coaching, which is what most people do, we're going to give you $15 off. I'm going to give you access to the do's and don'ts document for the application. Like we said, we'd be talking about do's and don'ts, and there's a link on that document that will get you, for the next couple of days, $15 off. The premium, just to be clear, it gives you a 30-minute phone call with one of us to help plan. We have a format we like to see if you don't have one, or we can go with what you have. And then 3 iterations of reading your essay and giving you feedback. Really good writing is writing and rewriting, and we've learned that over time. So I'm going to go ahead and give you guys the link to that do's and don'ts document now. And if that's all you want out of this presentation, the do's and don'ts documents, you're probably good to go right now. I'll send that over to you guys in the chat. And as I
And
mentioned, there's a link in this that will get you the discount.
great.
There it is if you click on that document.
So just a few words about transcripts and talking about grades and prerequisites. Again, the transcripts are a place where things can get held up. And I want to add that, with the shelter in place, work from home, schools going online, healthcare providers overwhelmed, things like transcripts and letters of recommendation could be a little bit harder to get for the next couple of months. So this is something you want to really be on top of. And I want to put a plug in to you, for you, those of you that are on the webinar who don't have the 3-point whatever grades. If your grade point average is below a 3.0, don't give up. What you want to do is you want to be looking for schools that have what's called a holistic approach to admissions. The holistic approach to admissions, these are programs that are looking for diverse, well-rounded candidates, people who have overcome life challenges, people who come from perhaps economically or educationally disadvantaged backgrounds. So they're going to give consideration to all of you, not just your grades. Personally, my bias is, I like to say, I don't want a classroom full of 4.0 smarties. I want a classroom full of smart, resilient, caring, self-directed individuals who are going to be amazing PAs. So look for those schools that have the holistic approach if your grades aren't, where you think they should be. And make sure you know what the schools you're applying to, what they look for, and if they have minimum grade point averages.
Let me jump in here really quick. I forgot to mention our poll was 82% first-time applicants, 17% reapplicants, and I assume 1 or 2 people didn't vote. And we have
you first timers, you.
Yeah, we're going to talk about the next webinar, so we're not finishing just yet. So hold on, if you're getting ready to go and you're chomping at the bit, stand out, stay here for just another slide, and then you'll have everything.
All right. So finally, this is your to-do list. You ready? You're going to make a folder for each of the schools that you're going to apply to, and you're going to have specific notes in those folders for each school. What's their application deadline? What are their prerequisites? What their prerequisite minimum grade is? Do they have supplemental essays? Do they have a supplemental application you need to fill out? Do they require 3 letters of recommendation or 5? What's the healthcare experience minimum? These are all things that are going to vary from program to program. So you need to keep track of those things.
Stay organized is huge.
Exactly. What information do you still need and how are you going to get it? Contact your references early. And this last piece, this is just a plea from the heart of a program director who gets emails from applicants saying, are you going to accept my biology course that I took 12 years ago? Don't contact the school until you're absolutely sure that the question you're asking is not on the school's website or in CASPA. Okay, program directly. If the admissions folks can't answer your question, they will refer you to the program, but it's not a good move to reach out to the program director or the associate director. I sometimes wonder if people are doing this because they think it's a good idea to get their name in front of me.
Yeah, that's not how I would want someone to know my name, for the thing that I asked them that I could have gotten by reading their material. Yeah.
Exactly. I think you all probably get what I'm talking about. So I won't belabor the point, but do your homework. And then the next webinar, Paul.
Yeah, so 10 days from today on the 29th, which is a Wednesday, I think probably most people are going to be free from the looks of the way we're all doing shelter in place, at least here in California. we're going to be doing this one in the afternoon, in the PM, 3 p.m. on the West Coast, 6 p.m. on the East Coast. We are going to walk section through the CASPA application. Now, I should say, you've already done a lot of that today. We're not going to take you through all the details of your those, free and reduced lunch programs and stuff like that. We're talking about, how do you actually fill this thing out? How do you describe your experiences in a way that makes you look good and is accurate? How do you put an essay together? Now, of course, we have an hour. We're not going to be able to tell you how to write your essay, because we have a lot of other things part of the application to cover. But we're going to give you some tips about how to construct your essay, things not to do, and then talking about other areas where you can inject a little bit of your personality. I tell people, PA school admissions, if you think of it right, you think of it like you're basting a turkey. Sometimes you use a baster and you pull out a big syringe full of the juice, and then you inject it back into the turkey to give it flavor. We want to capitalize on. So we're going to be
Absolutely.
talking about all that. We're going to go through each of the sections. Now, this is what we're going to be doing, is sharing a lot of the tips that we do in our coaching when we actually review your application. But since we're not actually doing it, we're teaching you how to do it. It's not as time intensive, and it's not a very expensive thing. For $40, you can learn how we do this. And then if you're not confident in how your application reads, or you're not sure how to handle a section or the whole thing, you can punt it over to us, and we actually have a service that will do that for more than $40. It's $159. But that is on Wednesday the 29th, 10 days from today. And you can sign up by going to the same page where you signed up for this webinar, or you can go to insidepatraining.com/resources. Well, let's see. I'll tell you what, let's
Webinars.
just take you there. I'm going to steal the screen right now and share with you my Chrome tab.
And while you're doing that, Paul, I just want to say thank you, everybody, for taking time this afternoon to join us. And I hope that it was helpful. I think the caveats are, know those sections of CASPA. Don't leave things blank. Be detailed, be specific, and help the reviewer know you in the best and most complete way possible.
Great stuff. Thank you, Lisa. Here's how you get to webinars. You can sign up for our CASPA Deep Dive. And if you're interested in coaching, you click on the coaching link, and our other services will be there for you. And you can read more about them and sign up if you're interested. And I will take us back to the webinar. All right. Hey, thanks for joining us, everyone. And you'll be getting an email from us. If you have feedback or questions, you can email. And I think in the document that I gave you guys access to, the do's and don'ts, my email is in there if you want to email me a question. All right.
Great. Thanks,
Awesome.
everyone.
Have a great
Have a good
Sunday. Thank you,
afternoon.
Lisa.
Yeah. Bye,
Bye.
Paul.